Hey, I'm back. My sound's working. Just kind of looking for a good. There's a nice new video here from the good folks at. Hey, wait a second.
Hey
Oh,
everybody.
you can't hear it.
I recently added videos to this PowerPoint, so definitely tempting fate today. So I'm ready to start? We're good? Yes? Yes. Okay, cool. Thanks everybody for coming to Advanced Environmental Storytelling in Spider Right of the Shrouded Moon. Please silence your cell phones. Please fill out the survey at the end that you'll get in an email. So, my name is Randy Smith, and I've been working on games that are not per se story games, where the focus tends to be on gameplay instead. So gameplay designer is one of the hats I wear, but I liked putting story into these games anyway, and oftentimes I did this with environmental storytelling. So let's start with the story of Spider, the Secret of Bryce Manor, aka Spider 1. In this game, you play a spider who proceeds from one room to the next of an abandoned mansion, leaving the place covered in cobwebs. The props in the environment convey who once lived here and what happened to them. Because you're a spider, you can get into every little nook and cranny and have a better perspective on the story than any one of its human players. And it's a story of domestic drama and mystery. There's a love triangle,
I'm trying to remember
sibling
what
rivalry,
I was
and
doing.
betrayal, and a suicide, and a kooky grandpa character who hid the family fortune from beyond the grave using a puzzle.
The
So let's
backstab
locate
mesh,
Spider
right.
in the space of all possible stories. There are absolutely no words, text, or dialogue. Other games of this quality include Another World and Ico and 30 Flights of Loving. This is actually an exaggeration, as we'll see. The story is extremely nonlinear, and what I mean by that is that the storyteller doesn't know what information is going to be presented to the audience, nor in what order. Another game like this is Her Story. There's these like tattered fragments that come at the audience in a way that's not under the author's control. Environmental storytelling is usually at least somewhat nonlinear unless you're controlling the camera and really forcing the user to stare at and witness and understand each little piece of story data. So the Back to the Future opening title sequence is a wonderful example of that. And lastly, it's like what I call a dead story or archaeology gameplay. There's no living characters present. The story has concluded before the game actually begins. It leads to the question, what happened here? This tends to have a lonely vibe, as is also pretty common in environmental storytelling, which comes from the player, I believe, thinking a lot about people, but there's no people present. So this is a good time to clarify that when I talk about the story for Spider, I'm specifically talking about the linear narrative of the NPCs. I'm not talking about the PC's on-screen emergent narrative or world building or puzzle design.
So here's a server.
Parts of story,
I can just do that
Spider,
instead of
but not
this.
presentation. So there's some things I really like about Spider's story, including the fact that it's asynchronous and non-intrusive. That means that it'll never interrupt the user like a cinematic would. The user can absorb the story while they're engaged in other things like gameplay. It's a, I never fixed this, it's a pull not push story, so just go ahead and read the opposite of what that says. So what this means is that the story is not foisted onto the player. Instead, the player takes the initiative to mine the story out of the game themselves, and this leads to a much higher level of investment on the part of the player. And those two points together also mean that you can kind of monitor the player becoming interested in the story during playtest. The player has a sense of ownership over the story. What that means is that the player's job is to form their own interpretation of Spider's story, and my goal as the designer is to foster different possible interpretations. I like maintain the one true version, but that's only to make sure that all the clues land and the story isn't inherently self-contradictory. And lastly, it's a fresh way to tell stories. Like, Her Story would not be as memorable if you watched all the videos in chronological order. And in a similar way for Spider's story, it has like plenty of archetypes and like hoary old chestnuts and stuff, but it's the other qualities that actually make it unique. It's like literally never required that the player follow along at all. If you just want to play the gameplay part, that's totally valid. And it's also told from the point of view of a character who cares nothing about the story. Like, the spider is only motivated by building webs and eating insects, but we happen to know that there's a human player who's sort of like watching over the spider's shoulder, who might be drawn in by the human drama they witness. But we only give that human the tools to express spider-like behaviors. Like, you can't actually respond to the story. And it's this very elusive quality, one of the most distinct parts of appreciating Spider's story, and we really push this separation as far as we can. So that was Spider 1, and then some years later, it's time to start working on the story for Spider Right of the Shrouded Moon, aka Spider 2. And we wanted this to be a leveling up in all possible ways. There wasn't going to just be one measly old puzzle. There's going to be many puzzles that would add up to this hidden mega puzzle. We wanted to do more with that layer of separation between the spider and the player, like kind of blurring the boundary between the game and real life. But mostly I'm going to be talking about the first two. We wanted there to be more characters, more intertwined plot threads. The way I approach things like designing good characters or drawing inspiration, it's very similar to how I'd author a story in any other game or other media, so I'm not going to cover these things very much. Instead, I'm going to focus on stuff specific to environmental storytelling. And where I like to start is by brainstorming what I call anchor moments, and these are specific story beats visualized as they would appear on screen. So they have to have the right tone. I'm hoping for some really good emotional strength to come out of them. And they need to fit the format by being easily read for information. And so I don't necessarily know how these moments are going to fit yet, but I feel like they might be right for the game. And then I proceed to this bottom-up process followed by a top-down process using those anchor points. So what do I mean? The low level is the anchor moments and any other actual on-screen game content, but the high-level stuff is more like plot lines and themes and characters. So basically, once there's enough low-level moments, the high-level structure starts to emerge, and then you think about that and use that to drive back downwards, and it goes back and forth, exploring and developing possibilities. So for example, here we have the anchor moment of a locket that's been thrown down the well, so that suggests this is a story about heartbreak. And what else might convey that? Well, here's a wedding ring that was lost in the drain. That was sort of derived from this, and players report these are both like strong moments for them. In Spider 2, this character seemed to be shaping up to be too much of a mustache-twirling vaudevillian cliche, so how can we give him some more dimension? So we can see here that in his private moments, he plays the lute while gazing at a portrait of his beloved. And I had this cool idea that you were going to follow some footprints, but which character this is or even what plot line it's associated with, I'm not sure. So why do I do low level first? It's because even for the most artfully structured work, it's the on-screen moments that are the content. The structure provides the substance and meaning, but it's invisible. It's kind of a candy versus vegetables thing, and I believe that both are important. And one of the keys here is being able, willing to cut the good anchor moments and other amazing ideas that just aren't fitting in. So focus on cohesion, not being your own editor. So I have a technique I call histogramming, which sounds fancy, but really just means counting how many of the planned levels are devoted to which topics. So for example, I can see how much stage time each character gets relative to that character's prominence. I also use it for things like themes, like making sure we still have enough relatable domestic drama and it's not all like secret societies and hidden passages. So it's kind of like this left brain analysis, which helps confirm we're building the right content. What can we cut? What might we need to add? And there's another technique where I sort of gather all the elements of a particular thread and think about how the player would logically connect them into a story, which is pretty standard. But the opposite direction is a more careful one, which would be like listing every inference the player would have to make in order to draw, in order to understand the story, and then connecting each of those steps with a specific piece of game content. In both cases, the goal is sort of proving the story can be understood. And this is my best answer to how to design for non-linear storytelling, because you can examine each step and think about when they're going to present themselves to the player. But another really good answer is, hey, play test and refine. Users will just tell you when they're confused, and when they are, it's usually the case that one of those steps is either missing or it's badly conveyed. So let's go into the shipping game and take a look for major things to talk about. We're going to start with the very beginning of the carriage house, which is kind of our training level. And here we see a lot of establishing material and symbolism. So the first thing that happens is the spider hatches from an egg. We actually see the spider go through a full life cycle from birth to death, which is important because the human characters are struggling to achieve immortality, and by contrast, the spider does achieve it, but using natural means. And the better to draw such parallels, it was also important to me that the spider be born under the symbol of the secret society, thrust into the same circumstances as the humans. We also see anachronisms like, hey, there's license plates from cars versus this antique carriage. It's meant to establish that this is a modern time and it has a strong connection to its past, much like Vermont, my home, by parts of the game. And you can also find a hidden stash of valuables plus some weird little tinctures in the carriage house. This is meant to be a reward for exploring, but it's also a story hook, like who put this here and what were they up to? Moving on to the entrance hall, the next level. We're going to spend some time talking about this portrait, which internally we call the arrival. There's a distressed pregnant young woman who's being taken in by an older couple.
Just me or this guy, Jake Gyllenhaal?
Joyfully, but the man standing a little bit apart, he seems annoyed. We see their names below on the plaque. The man's
J-E-Y-K.
and the SB Blackbird is the other half of the elderly couple.
Gyllenhaal.
And the pregnant woman is L.S. Bryce. LS's arrival in the house is an exciting incident of Spider 2 from which everything else unravels. But how do we know that this isn't like a departure? Like maybe they're showing off their shamed servant girl or something. So partially that's conveyed through body language. We see SB's gathering embrace. And we also added luggage at one point to help convey a sense of arrival. Like we wanted her to seem like she's from someplace else. So this portrait features numerous connections for the players to draw, including this window and this hat. We laid it on pretty thick in this first level because we were trying to help players realize what their job is. Because make no mistake, understanding spider story requires what is essentially detective work, even if the story isn't detective themed. And this is partially due to the non-linear, no-text format. It's just really difficult to read complicated stuff like character motivations and causality. So we work really hard to help the players understand by designing clues that are easily read and combined with other clues. So coming back to this portrait, let's look at some more examples. This piece of luggage appears in a later level.
It's not giving me an inventory.
And in that same room with the luggage, we find this purse and this
Even though I
necklace. So
see
this
pants.
establishes that the room is LS's bedroom.
So maybe it
And nearby in that
did
same
mess
level,
with,
there's this earring.
things.
Because we know it's her bedroom, we can assume this is her earring, so that when we see the matching earring in an even later level, we know that LS is the person who is here strapped to this weird experimental bed thing. And it so happens that all 4 pixels of her earring in the portrait happen to not contradict those earrings. Now, some of you may also draw the connection between these red shoes, the other of which shows up at this kidnapping scene. That's chloroform on the table above there. And together, this is supposed to express that she was kidnapped in the basement and then brought to the experimentation table. This idea of connections is the most prominent tool in Spider's storytelling technique. So when you see this cane and bowler hat in a later level, I want you to know that this is Deevee's place. And I want you to process everything in that level with respect to him. It's his stuff, it's things he was doing. Portraits provide a rare opportunity because we have a few of them to connect the props to a name and a face and all the humanity and character those convey. So I try to wring a lot of use out of each portrait. And the entrance hall also contains candy wrappers, which are a calling card. They're associated with a particular character.
No inventory.
You can sprinkle them around wherever you want to establish this character has been there. And they're a little bit more effective because you're essentially drawing a connection to that same prop over and over instead of having to notice and track individual
did not
props
host
like
game.
clothes.
Damn.
These guys are also interactive. You can kind of bounce them around a little bit, so it calls more attention to them. There's other calling cards in the game, like the child character. If he's been somewhere, he tends to leave toys around. Now, this is a whole lot of stuff for just one level. It's one of the first levels of the game, but it's not intended to be understood on the first pass, not at all, much more like repeat visits. And again, players don't have to do any of this. They can just totally ignore the story. Moving on to the parlor, this is a scene of quiet domestic life for the elderly couple. The left side is his, the right side is hers. That ordering is reflected in the portrait above the hearth and is later preserved in their bedroom in terms of which side of the bed they sleep on. So let's go in and examine each character's props. For DV on the left, we can see he's the guy with the candy wrappers. We see his books, which seem to be about things like engineering and math. And along with the screwdriver and this gizmo, it's meant to establish him as the inventor of the inventions we're going to see later in the game. And we see that he's drinking not whiskey, but maybe that's like Kool-Aid, which along with candy, suggesting kind of childishness. And over here on the right with SB, looks like she's just sewing like a very innocuous housewife. There's a reveal about her later, but to make it work, you have to start by setting up the wrong impression. Zooming on that portrait, DV looks like an uptight butt bucket, which combined with the Kool-Aid and candy and genius levels of inventing, that pretty much sums up his character. And there's some power dynamics here too. DV is standing up and he almost seems to be holding down his seated wife. But once the player learns how headstrong and wild his wife is, they'll get a second read on this the next time they visit. This is more about what DV wishes were true than what's really true. And lastly, P-Fen, the guy in the background standing apart. The hope was to establish him.
This is the lowest settings,
so
I can run multiple instances of the game.
This is confusing for players. Off in a corner, we see where a child drew on the walls. This is meant to indicate an invasion of the couple's quiet domestic life. And in the parlor, we find our second hidden stash of treasures and tinctures. So let's take a look at this recurring pattern. The treasures are supposed to look valuable, like somebody is stealing. For a little while in our game, they just looked like normal plates and silverware, too much like that. So people are like, I don't know, somebody doesn't want to do the dishes, so they hid them. So to solve this, we really beefed up their value appearance, and we also made sure the first ones in the carriage house especially look super treasury. The reason they're plates and silverware is because these are items a butler would have access to. In a later level, we can find the mother lode of all these items, and the name of this level is Butler's Quarters, which establishes that there is a butler, and players tend to figure out who it is using process of elimination, if nothing else. And these caches are implemented as secrets in the sense of a formal interaction in the spider universe. The way a secret works is they start covered up, and then when you figure out where they are and get inside them, the cover comes off, and you see the message, secret found. This message helps the player to contextualize the contents, even if it doesn't immediately register as something that someone would keep secret. In this case, we can see that the child's hiding something that he stole to play with he wasn't supposed to take. Secrets and hiding are very compatible with environmental storytelling, so all the characters in Spider are designed as people with secrets and objects that they want to hide.
Just trying to think of some, how about ginger beer?
The first thing you encounter is the trait of food, which kind of implies that somebody is serving or caring for someone else. And there's medicine here, which implies that the recipient might be sick. So medicine versus tinctures. These are both recurring props, but they're associated with two different story threads. We tried to make them visually distinct to signal the correct connotations. The medicine is supposed to look healthy, the tincture is supposed to look nasty and like addiction, but they're too close. It's too easy to draw a spurious connection between them. And now we're back here, and you might ask yourself, if that pepper shaker is supposed to be relevant, which is some slides I cut, so ignore that, but the pepper shaker is relevant, then what about this other
I don't
thing,
see the
which is a cool
backpack.
prop that we found in real life? That's the only reason it's in the game.
I see the clothes.
Almost every prop in Spider comes from some photo reference, and that's the major reason it's in the game, for authentic texture. What would be in this kitchen? What are cool, appropriate objects? But this kind of texture can become red herrings in the detective sense. Spurious data that if you mine it for meaning, you can wind up with incorrect conclusions. And this like real data versus noise, texture, red herrings is a really big topic in Spider. So one huge misstep I made along these lines is that I had three separate plot threads.
Okay, there we go.
Involved coffins, and two of them involved replacing the contents of those coffins with rocks. But they're totally separate, and I didn't mean for you to draw connections. So this,
What the fuck? It
this
works.
is confusing for people, short version.
But it's not working.
So this kind of confusion is toxic to the player's detective process. There's like a tipping point where too much confusion has cascading effects, can cause players to tune out. What you really hope for is that things will land into place early to keep the player invested, and also to eliminate some clues, taking them off the board, leaving fewer for the player to put together. But conversely, when players are pursuing a spurious connection, they're going down a dead end, and eventually they're going to need to recognize that and rewind, putting those clues back on the board. It's bad news. So in Spider, we really like texture, and we don't want it to be trivial to pick out a story clue, so we have a deliberately high rate of noise.
I think I have to make those all reliable, the multicasts.
So, for example, players can come to a conclusion like, that night thing might be a clue, but not necessarily in this game.
Because it wasn't acting like
Basically,
this
you make
before
an implicit
at
contract with the
all.
player, and you have to stick to it. And of course, it helps not to go out of your way to create problems. One example of the consistency rule is this scene, where given the story here, there would realistically be so many overlapping layers of tracks and footprints that at first I chose not to depict them all. But that was inconsistent with my normal way of depicting clues, so players read it wrong, meaning that they correctly read the incorrect.
It's the mouse button detection that's not
so
replicating
after the
completely.
Scene read like this confusing mess before you, then it clicked easily for players, and this went against all of my instincts. As an aside, these marks right here,
Yeah, so
were confusing the players.
what else can I test real quick?
From a shoe.
This isn't gonna work, is it?
But that
Nope.
didn't
I
click
spawned a
until you
horse, but
actually
I didn't
added the
possess it.
shoe. And this
Hey,
and
look, and
many
now you
other,
can see my backpack.
suggestions were brought to us by playtesters.
Hmm.
Moving on to the guest bedroom. This is a
Interesting.
room shared by two people, an adult, L.S. Bryce, and the pregnant lady. She's the pregnant
Oops.
lady.
Oh,
and
there we
a
go.
newborn child named T. Bryce.
Let's see my backpack.
This room
Okay.
establishes firmly the outcome of the pregnancy. And even though it's a huge mansion, they're both like crammed in here. They share one bed, and that implies they're unwanted guests.
So it's simply not on Rep
We see a
Notify
portrait of
is the
T. Bryce,
problem.
the baby, with SB Blackbird. He's being given a monkey doll by SB, and partially this is symbolic because T. Bryce is like a little monkey. He's always getting into things he shouldn't. But of course, the monkey's a connection, and it later places T. Bryce in this creepy basement.
So I'm just gonna set all the multicasts to reliable.
Around for years to build a sense of fond relationship with SB, but we never see another portrait of him, so I couldn't express that. I only had one monkey doll propped to place, and this is where it had to be. And moreover, without any portraits, it's hard for people to be sure how old the T. Bryce is when the game starts. Is he still a baby? So we added multiplication tables, which kind of calibrates that, he's probably not 3 years old, but he's not an 18-year-old either. Let's call it like maybe 7 to 10, which works perfectly. There's a lesson here about the importance of being able to visualize a scene correctly in your detective work. So before the multiplication tables, we had a lot of trouble with this scene directly above where you find the monkey doll. We wanted to imply that he climbed a stack of things to escape a window, but in order to visualize that, you have to imagine the correct size of kid, like large enough to climb, but small enough to squeeze through. So what really tipped the scales in this case was these handprinted footprints, which again helps with visualization.
Okay, they should all just be on
In a
here.
dark closet in the guest bedroom is where LS keeps things she no longer needs, like T. Bryce's baby stuff, since he's grown out of that. And there's a trunk where she stashed her broken dreams and artifacts from her former life and memories she doesn't want to think about anymore, cramming them way back in the corner. It's meant to be heartbreaking. So the vault is where we have DV's cane and bowler hat. This is his man cave, and it contains this portrait of a secret society, which shows a lot of things. It shows the robes they wear, where they meet, which is a location you can visit in the game, and how they establish rank, because the ones that are on the dais a little bit further up, they carry orbs with triangles in them, whereas the ones lower down on the floor carry orbs with squares in them. So there is such a thing as rank, and here's how you know what rank people are. In a different part of the vault, there's this safe, which has been carelessly pushed aside, indicating there's more at stake than just treasure, raising the stakes relative to Spider 1. And there's this dartboard, which is an unsubtle clue that DV dislikes someone with the name of Bryce, and so we can see how that might extend to our other Bryces in this game. And on the wall, we see papers where someone's trying to puzzle out some secrets of the secret society, and the candy wrappers indicate that it's DV doing this. This thing right here is a secret sliding wall. It's very Scooby-Doo. And then it changes to this, which is a robe and an orb from the secret society. So players understood that the robe and orb belonged to someone of low rank in the secret society, but there's a lot of confusion here, and I had wanted it to be a cool reveal that DV was in a secret society, but it wasn't. Like, who belonged to or knew about the secret society was an extremely messy topic for players. And a big piece of the confusion was that, in my mind, the family was just the caretakers of the secret society's estate. But for many playtesters, they assumed that the family, like, was the secret society, and this was their estate. And so, of course, they knew all the secrets, and they were all members and stuff. So to solve this problem and to signal a sense of mystery right off the bat, we just opened...
I want it to rep notify, but you need to use a variable for that. But I mean, this is already set to rep notify
so
here.
There's lots more in the game.
So I guess maybe I can do...
A few most noteworthy moments. This scene worked great at conveying that someone was spying on DV, and it introduced a mystery of who the spy was
on
at the
rep
time that
third
worked well for the
person.
story. Many players cite this as one of their favorite moments, and it wasn't one of the anchor moments. Usually those are the ones that work best since they're originally conceived as being visually strong. I think this one works because the reveal is exciting, because you're just in that room, and even though one-way glass is a hard thing to convey, the rest of that cubby clearly communicates a furtive operation. And of course these photos are a great way to show DV going through a progression over time, which is normally hard to convey in environmental storytelling, and specifically he's descending into insanity. I was really excited to do an actual crime scene, but it didn't work that well, and it's because it's a nexus of a lot of the things that are hard to get right with environmental storytelling. So most people understand that T. Bryce escaped through the window and that LS was the victim, but what's hard is sequencing events, building timelines, causality. It's supposed to be the case that T. Bryce was fleeing from DV, and he ran to his mother for help, and then DV chased them both down to the basement, and she helped her son escape, but she got caught instead. But that's a whole lot of stuff to try to fit together in a sequence, and people have other ideas like, well, maybe LS was being held prisoner down here, and maybe T. Bryce came to try to rescue his mom, but he got caught. And so one solution was this...
All the graphic settings are set to low, by the way, just in case anyone's just joining us.
So the summary about
just so I can test
is that there's text
multiple
all over the friggin' place,
clients on the same computer.
Subtly to provide a little bit more
Without
context
crashing.
and orientation.
At least I can play it all fully at epic settings, 1920, 1080, 60 frames per second.
And I don't feel bad about it.
In the editor, it's just even better in the final.
Another problem with the kidnapping scene is it's not the archetypal kidnapping scene. Like, there's this weird replacement victim concept, and there's a lot of scene changes. And being a deviation from the expected norm is also true of like the secret society and how they work.
What was the name of the other one? Human Being?
I think archetypes can be great for helping the player understand.
No, Human Being was all messed up.
What
What was that other one that I just made?
The technical word for it. Since we're making a list, here are some things I've had a hard time depicting with environmental
Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid and ginger beer.
This tends to extend to character motivations, like the
what?
treasures. Like,
hello.
Why is he hiding them
Lag.
inside the house? Like, is his plan to come back and steal them later or something? Things that are missing are hard to convey because they're not on screen. So this perch is missing a mechanical blackbird that's supposed to be there, but without seeing the bird, players thought it might be like a handle or a lever. So we actually had to just like depict the bird on its perch, like very nearby in the same scene. And those 2 points together explain a recurring problem in the Spider games. These places are always abandoned, but unless I literally put the corpse in the game, no player has any idea where all the characters went. So for example, we saw that T. Bryce climbed out that basement window, but we don't know for sure if that was his final appearance in the story. There's a lot of things I regret about Spider 2. I think Spider 1's hooks were hookier. Spider 2 takes a little while to get going. Spider 2 is too close to Spider 1.
Oh,
That
shit.
problem.
What the
Like,
fuck?
they both take place in abandoned mansions, and so I had already used my best material, in particular, to establish that it's an abandoned mansion.
I deleted him.
Spider 2 is kind of a lot. It's really stuffed full of ideas. It's a little bit of an overreach. Probably fewer
Oh, hey,
ideas
it made
formed
the
each time each with
character.
player
Oh, on the
content.
server, that's right, that's
And
why.
it takes a really long time to compare
Okay, whatever.
clues in
And
both games. Like, you know, if the clues are in separate levels,
didn't do this
you can't just
shit
flip back and forth between them.
multiple.
But there's one thing I really like, so I want to share with you my
multicast,
favorite
etc.
moment, which is the dramatic conclusion of the game, or at least the climax. So first of all, there's these diagrams in the metagame of a time machine and a weather device, and these are actually player tools that you
Turning
use
off
to
high
change whether it's day or night, or rainy or
doesn't
clear,
happen.
the Blackbird estate when you're playing the game. But then you actually find these as levels in the game, so they've actually been invented. And you get to play
It's
around
weird.
there. And then there's this corpse you find who you can examine really carefully and almost but not quite confirm that this is DV. But it can't be DV because DV is still alive. You've seen him in the window. He's up here with the kidnapped LS in the tower. So you make your way there, but when you arrive, they are both gone. And you chase DV down the trapdoor to arrive in his laboratory. And now we're going to dramatically attempt to play a video in PowerPoint.
No. Oh, because I went and accessed the files while I was closing. I always do that shit. Whatever.
Now we're going to dramatically attempt to get our PowerPoint presentation. But it works. Okay. So what happened here? Did DV disintegrate himself, or did he actually invent time travel in his quest for eternal life? It's designed to be interpretable either way, and most players report being unsure which they most believe. And this pertains to the meaning of Spider, right, the Shrouded Moon, which is about mysteries and magic. What's real, what's not, and how you'd even know the difference, which is something that I believe is very relevant today. And there's plenty in the game that plays with this theme. There's the fate of LS, the quest for immortality, and the secret society's machinations and what's actually really going on behind their facades, which you get to go back and look at. And I really like that the player's ability to interpret what they see, the skill that they've been using throughout the game, is so relevant to this meaning, and it comes into play especially at the climax.
The animation was really...
So taking this even
networked
one
animation was
further,
all
soon after
fully
the climax
checked
and
off
the game is wrapping up, you get
until
exposed to increasingly strong
I
hints
started
that the
adding
story
this
extends beyond the
right-click
game and
thing.
into
So
the
I think
real
it's just
world.
the
And the
right-click
starting point for that is that
messing
the
it up
secret society
somewhere.
is based on a historical one, and you can research them to connect the remaining
Let's see if I can just
loose ends
find
of the
that.
game, discover the deepest secrets buried in the game, and also to learn the connections between the game and the actual, out in the physical, real world, historical mysteries that the game is based on. And that's it. I got 3 minutes for questions, if anybody has questions. And I'll take you in the tape. Thanks.
Actually...
Go ahead. No, go ahead. All right. Thank you so much for the talk. I always find so much useful knowledge from the talks that you do. I kind of got a couple of questions if no one has any more, but my first one would be, how much reworking do you do on the artwork? So I guess the art style was specifically chosen so you could iterate, because you said playtesting is really important. So do you do like a broad pass of the artwork and then kind of clean up on that as you go? But then that might also bring too much emphasis on players and have to do the playtesting all over again. And then how do you keep track of the connections? So say you kind of reference this doll in one of the pictures and you have him down in the basement, for example. Do you have some kind of spreadsheet like, okay, I've referenced this somewhere else, I need to get rid of that if I remove it from the basement? Like, do you keep track of that stuff?
Yep. So the answer about process and art style, if it was more flexible, that would be great. It's a little bit costly to change things, so that's one of the reasons for more advanced planning. It's not impossible, and we definitely do have to change things, and we hope to change small props, not like big parts of the set or whatever. feel like I had another point for you about that. Oh yeah, one of the problems is that a lot of this stuff is very, very nuanced, really specific direction, and it has it tends not to come together until very close to the end. And so there's lots of like little tiny details missing that they're actually really important because players focus so much on everything because we're asking them to mine everything for so much data. And so the playtest is hard because of that. But you do your best with what you got. And the second question was about spreadsheet. Nope, not quite that organized. But one thing that's handy is if you know something is like a hero prop and it's actually relevant to meaning. If it's got like the earrings, there's only one piece of art, and so that we just copy paste the art kind of a thing, and that helps a little bit.
Okay. Well,
another question.
In my experience with sort of environmental or pull versus push storytelling, it seems like one of the stronger emotions is sort of this human voyeuristic tendency to want to see events or get knowledge that it seems like they're not supposed to have. Does your sort of experience bear that out, and does that affect kind of what you sort of keyframe or pick as your sort of main moments that you want to make sure that you communicate?
Yeah, I didn't actually explicitly think about voyeurism when designing either spider stories, but so I also worked on the Thief series, and it's a big deal there, and I think that's because those are living humans that you get to watch. And so it's easier to design things that living humans are doing in front of you that are like fun and you feel sneaky when you're watching them or whatever. I think it's a little bit harder to build into props, but I'm sure that like some of that Thief experience kind of carried over. Like I didn't explicitly be like, you're going to go through this person's underwear drawer or anything like that. But if you're looking at, for example, their failing relationships, which is a common theme in Spider, I think that has a little bit of a voyeuristic sense, but a kind of a sad one. And now we're out of time, so I'll be in the wrap-up room. Thank you very much.
Twitch plays Pokemon? No. Let's go back to YouTube real quick, find some good shit to watch. $1949 Batman and Robin movie? What? Oh my god. Great game tutorials. Yeah, that's good. Because I need to work on that soon. It's the actual tutorial, which is right after the spawn area.
Hello.
Should I make this multicast
my
thing?
name's Asher Volmer. This talk is about tutorials, apparently. But I'll get to that. First, a little about me. Oh, man. Whoops. I can press the thing. Whoop. There we go. Who gave me that responsibility? So I'm probably most well known at this point for releasing a game called Threes last month. Wait, this is kind of my first time in public since I've released Threes. So how many of you have played it? Oh God. Okay. Okay, so I released it on a Thursday, and then by the next day at like 9 p.m. or something, it was #1 on the App Store, and it just stayed that way for a week. And so people have told me that I'm successful now, and I'm not going to pretend like I know what that means or how it happened or what I did or anything. But I think some people might be interested in like how I just design things in general, because that's the process that I took, and then eventually I'll get to how I design tutorials, because it's the same thing. So for Threes, I just basically, when I design, I just pick a goal. So for Threes, I just pick, hey, I want to make a game that just uses arrow keys, like up, down, left, and right. And I've got like a night to work on a game, and then I came up with this atrocity. And I sent it out to my friends, and they played it for an hour, and I was like, oh, I guess this game's kind of good. Probably has some legs. I should work on it and iterate it and make it better. But so that circle there represents like the entire possible design space for games based around arrow keys. And it turns out it's actually pretty big design space. Like I can make puzzle games or platformers or like an adventure game, or there's a game there about a fox. So there's like lots of things to do. So in order to narrow down like which direction to go in addition to the first goal, I actually have multiple goals. So, you know, it's based on around arrow keys. But and I was like, okay, what else should I do? Well, I want to be mobile, which actually narrows it down a lot. Because now it should be turn-based. You should be able to play it for a second, then put it away, and play instructor time and all that stuff. So that narrowed down the design space quite a bit. So it wouldn't be a platformer or a game about a fox.
The audio cleanup on this is like sounds like an alien talking.
I didn't want to spend my entire life on this.
Crackling in the background.
No sprawling content, no long storylines, none of that stuff. I just had to be like a very small mobile game based around the 4 directions. And then at the time, I was playing a lot of Drop 7. And actually, I've been playing it for about 2 years. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I wonder if I could make a game that you could play forever. Because that seems like a really cool design goal. So these were like all my goals, and they really narrowed down the field. And then, you know, in the center, there was 3s showed up. I mean, it wasn't like easy or magic, but it was like, you know, every time that we came to a design decision, like I could evaluate it against all these different goals, and either it fit in that juicy center or it didn't, and I could say, yes, this works, or no, this doesn't. And it allowed me to move forward with confidence. So I think that's why I really like this design technique. Obviously, when you're picking goals, there should be logic behind it. But my favorite part, basically, if you pick overlapping goals that complement each other super well, that doesn't actually help you because the design space is still super huge. So try to pick goals that inherently conflict with each other, and that'll narrow down your possible design space and help you make decisions easier. Like, for example, like a tiny game and a game you can play for forever feel very opposed. But
this is kind of how I approached conceptualizing the design elements for my game. Because I was like, how do I make a game where the end game problem is solved? That's why I was dwelling on for a long time before I set myself on the idea of actually doing this.
So, in that juicy center, in the midst of all those design goals, the tutorial also has its own goals. Like, for example, it needs to teach the player. And on top of that, it needs to comfort the player, because if the player enters the game and feels terrible,
I made new characters,
the entire time,
right?
They're not going to want to keep playing.
Whatever.
And on top of that, tutorials happen to be in the very beginning of the game, so you want to excite the player so they keep playing the game.
Again, this is just all the
this is
settings at the lowest possible so that I can play at multiple screens
or
here.
I get it, or I'm bored, or whatever, and then they just sort of drop it out. And those, I think, are the obvious ones, but the one that most tutorials just sort of disregard and totally throw away is basically they don't respect the player. And I think that's super important. I think this is a reason a lot of people say, look at tutorials and they say, oh, tutorials suck. Why have tutorials at all? They're awful. It's because they're playing tutorials that just don't respect the player at all and treat you like a robot or like a dumb person or whatever. Doesn't respect the fact you have a brain. So I'm just going to tell you guys how to make the perfect tutorial. But in fact, there's no recipe for the perfect tutorial. But there are components inherent in all tutorials, and here's the list of all the ingredients. Tell the player what to do, stay out of the player's way, give the player a safe space to learn, and make the goals into puzzles, which is a weird one, but I'll explain it. And then when you're putting these in your game, you want to, again, relate them to the different design goals in the Venn diagram. For example, when you tell the player what to do, you're teaching them, obviously, because you're this does that, and you're okay, now I know. You're comforting the player because they're feeling comfortable with the system and not anxious about, they're not being paralyzed by choice, basically, when you tell them exactly what to do, which is nice. But you're not really respecting the fact that they might have played 1,000 games like this before, and following instructions is kind of boring, so it doesn't excite them. That's how it sort of relates. In addition, so the next part is getting out of the player's way, which is pretty much the exact opposite.
Even at the lowest settings, you got this thing.
Explore and try things on
It's
their
pretty
own
cool.
and all this stuff. But if you're a brand new player and you get in there, you're just what do I do now? And so it can lead to an uncomfortable experience. But you can. Oops,
Again, lowest settings just are test.
to see all the gameplay possibilities in front of you, and you imagine that. And basically, what you shouldn't do is get in the player's way with things like pop-ups and stuff. Because, well, one, no one reads them. This pop-up has been on my slide for a while, and I still haven't read it. They're just walls of text that I will
take this
skip,
long
and then
to
I'll feel
just
bad about
teleport.
skipping them, and then I'll be oh, was there something on there that I should have read? And it doesn't matter. And it's basically, here's a good tip, which is that if you absolutely have to put pop-ups in or some texty
okay.
thing in the way of the player and prevent them from
Cool.
progressing.
Okay.
Do it as
I
early
see the
as
servers
possible,
backpack.
because like the more I'm into your game, the more I'm getting into the flow of playing your game, and then suddenly a wall of text pops up, I'm going to be like pissed. I think the one company that I've seen do like a really, really good pop-up in the beginning is Telltale, where like this shows up at the very, very beginning and it sets the tone of the game, and then this is the only like text thing that you see, text wall.
Okay,
that
let's
you see,
try
and
another
then it just
character
gets out of
here.
your way and lets you play and like having primed you about what the game's about. Next up, you should give the player safe space. I feel like this is pretty obvious, and games are actually kind of good at this. Though I've seen so many. I went to USC School of Interactive Media, and I helped playtest a lot of student games. And this is where like a lot of student games fall apart, where they just sort of like put the tutorial under like a time pressure, or you're falling, or you can die, or something terrible. And basically, it's not like respecting the players. The fact that the players have to learn through experimentation.
Welcome.
And like basically they want a place that they can fail and try again and feel like, okay, they understand the system. Obviously you can dress up the space however you want. Like the beginning of Uncharted 2 is a train falling off a mountain, but it's relatively safe. You can fall off and die, which I'm not sure I feel about, but it's actually, I like the tutorial level a lot. And the final sort of weird one is make the goals into puzzles, which is a weird.
Just put a
thing. I'm
note
kind
there
of
if anyone
biased
just
'cause I
shows
design
up.
puzzle games,
Yes, okay, I see that
but
dude's backpack, so that
the fact is
works.
that all video games are systems, and you want your players to learn those systems. And I think a really good way to do that is through puzzles and like presenting them with something to figure out. Like the opposite of this is a trend that I hate in games. Like this, like totally bothers me to no end. Is like big yellow arrows. Like a lot of games have big yellow arrows that point you at something and say,
Exactly.
click on it. And when those show up, I'm not actually learning anything. I'm just clicking on things. I'm
so
just basically
we
following
wanna see this dude here
instructions
on
and
the
not learning.
screen.
I'm just doing. There's big yellow arrow, big green arrow, big yellow arrow. And
Nice.
it's really annoying.
Okay,
and,
that worked.
basically, I'm not processing what I'm doing. I'm just doing. And then as far as the game concerned, I've advanced. But as far as my brain concerned, I've learned nothing. So when you tell me what to do in the context of the game. This is actually like the main thing I'm proud about in Threes, is that in the tutorial, I don't phrase the tutorial challenges.
What
in terms
state
of,
is
like,
it in
hey,
where
if you
it's
swipe
like
left 2 times, these will
doesn't
bump up against
think
the
I'm
wall and
moving
be rearranged. Basically,
because
I'm
of the right-click
prompting the
thing.
player and priming them to understand what's happening. So I say, rearrange numbers by pushing them into walls. And so hopefully at this point they've learned how to swipe.
I go into
And
strafe.
then basically they have to process.
I'm stuck
like,
in
this is
going
not
into
inherently
turning.
telling you, oh, I have to swipe left 2 times. It's saying, oh, I have
I'm
to
watching over
move
here.
these tiles around and then push them into walls. And like that's a very different mental process.
Okay, now I got it back.
And it's basically a puzzle. You're like, because people actually like sort of mess around on the screen a lot, and before they actually get it. But when it clicks, it really clicks, and they don't forget. Like here, instead of saying merge these 2 tiles.
There's some
by
lag,
one
but I'm
twice,
seeing it
like,
do the right animation on
use the
the
walls
on the
and
other
add these
servers, but
together.
not on
And it's
myself.
a little puzzle, and they're like, what does that mean?
I think I need to
But
start
eventually they're like,
turning
oh,
and do
these things
server
are-
set turning.
And again, I'm just setting up
It's
rules
funny.
in the context of the universe. And there at the bottom is a little goal. It says create a 12 to continue. And basically the player has to ask themselves, how do I do that? And they have to build off the things they've learned. And,
So the
you know,
turning
hopefully
thing
I've
has to
forgotten,
do
like, a
set
4-second
turning and
tutorial.
then server set turning.
And then finally, you know, it's like finally, what I do is I break down all those things, rearrange, add, push, twins, all these concepts, and I sort of meld them into one command.
Okay, but I fixed the
which is
backpack thing,
Make this thing.
and I made progress on the other
And
thing.
what this is doing, it's helping the player build a mental model of like what their game's about.
Just like the NPCs are all
And it's
good.
doing it in a very abstract way, basically presenting them with puzzles. And once they solve them, they like understand the game and they don't need much help anymore. So again, you know, tell the player what to do, stay out of the player's way, give the player safe space, make the goals into puzzles. There's a lot of ways to do all of this. It'll depend on your game, like which ones you favor more than others. But then right in the middle, you'll have like this. Once you've done that, once you've followed all these steps, and you feel like you have a tutorial
Wait,
that
what was
fits
the error
perfectly right in
results?
the middle of all of these, you know, design circles. Like when you are convinced that it is the perfect tutorial,
All I did was click on the
just
output log.
realize that it isn't, and that you're totally wrong. and that you have to like play test it over and over and over again and iterate. Like threes had at least 3 or 4 iterations,
none trying to reach.
and it was a lot of like arguing between me and Greg.
Properly set static mesh.
And it took a lot of work, but eventually we landed up where we are, and I learned a lot of these lessons along the way. So basically make your tutorial, and then you're gonna have to make it again. You're gonna have to make it
possibly
again,
because of the NPCs.
The territory, and it's the only way you'll
Let's
learn.
put an invalid. Is valid there. Yeah, it doesn't have an is valid. Let's
That was
just
12 minutes, so I've got
convert
got
to
the time.
validated get. And shit, can I convert to pure get
I'm just curious, maybe it's just how you were specifically defining it for the purposes of the lecture, but how was the trying to climb out of the falling train not
let's use this
exciting?
one.
Well, basically
Right,
it
let's
was.
just go here, do it.
They found a way.
Oh, wait, I know what I
They found
can
a way
do.
to make a safe space exciting. But I'm saying inherently,
Alright,
it's
we'll do
not.
this again.
Inherently,
Convert
like you look at like,
There we go.
oh, I can do whatever I want for infinite amount of time and not be punished. Like players can find that boring, but they found a way to dress it up, which is great.
I have a question about one of the sort of finer detail rules in threes, which is if you have, say, a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 in a row, and you
Traffic
slide
access
it,
human, but
it's
I thought I'd fixed this, unfortunately.
It picks
But it's
one of them,
pending kill.
and it doesn't crunch both of them. And I wondered if that was a thing you ever considered incorporating into the tutorial. It's certainly a bit that's missing from my mental model of the game.
But it hasn't
Not trying to
bothered
follow.
anything otherwise for months, so
So
I can
you
leave it
have,
for now. It's just a random little like
on a single
oops kind of
row,
error.
Yeah.
You have 2 things that could
So-
pair when you slide. It doesn't pair both. It pairs
Turning
one
thing.
of them.
Right.
And that's still a thing which I'm forgetting and slipping. Like it isn't. I can't quite pin it down in my mental model of the game, and I keep up like which one is it? Oh, and then I get it wrong.
Well, yeah.
I just
mean,
wondered if that was ever in the tutorial or whether you took it out. Or
It's
whether
not in the tutorial. In fact, a lot of things are not in the tutorial. Because basically what he's describing is like if there's 1 and 2 or 1 and 2, you push left. Basically the logic that's happening there is that only the wall is pushing up against those, the first 1s and 2, and those are merging. And then
I'm keeping that just so I don't have to go replug everything else
it's following
in.
the internal logic of the game, which is why that happens. But I don't explain that in the tutorial. I don't explain the next plus in the tutorial. I don't explain exactly where
I have to put an extra digit in because it won't save it if all I do is change capitalization.
Because I wanted to fill the game with questions so that people would try to figure it out and people would like ask each other and talk to each other and just sort of like, like I wanted there to be an answer for what's happening. But I didn't see a reason to put in the tutorial because it would just weigh down the tutorial and make it longer. And it actually had a nice side effect.
I'm over here on your right. Hello. Okay, so there are a bunch of games that don't use any words at all, that do things purely through sort of levels that are simplified to a certain extent, like Braid and Portal, Super Mario Brothers, The Mighty Jill Off. There are a couple of others. So these are tutorials which have no words at all. My question is do you think it's worthwhile aiming for something like that?
That should help here.
Also the question, when you have that, would you still call that a tutorial?
Well, first, to answer that question, absolutely. Basically, the tutorial, like basically every game that that teaches the player how to play it, it has a tutorial in it. It's just the thing that teaches, and that can look like whatever you want. And like usually when tutorials have no words in them and can convey that like effectively, that's even better because you're telling the player what to do like very implicitly, and they have to understand the environment and understand what's happening, and that's even a better way for them to ingrain in their brain what's actually happening. So I think it's preferable to text. But you can have a lot of fun with text, which I do, which is why I keep doing it. I think there's a lot of fun language stuff and like helping vocabulary, and like in the threes tutorials, I treat the numbers like people. I say, hey, meet 1 and 2, and like, hey, look at like swipe everywhere and moves everybody, and I think that's just like a fun thing to do and sort of sets the tone.
Hey Asher, Kim Bowl over here. That's actually, thank you so much for your game. I totally was not playing it at all during the talk.
Good, good.
Shut up, Kayla. I just had a really quick question. So first of all, you've done a fantastic job with the onboarding. I use your game as an example for the students that I teach in game design and for a lot of the work that I've been doing, even in the short space of time that it's been out. So fantastic work. In the incoming tile, rather, I noticed you made a design switch where you added a plus sign. I was wondering if you could answer where that design change came from, because I found it really interesting. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, it actually came from, like, when I was thinking about, I'm going to go back in this talk. Actually, very well. Very beginning. Basically, so basically, it came from these design goals that I had, which is, before I added, basically what she's talking about is like when a number greater than 3 is going to show up on the grid, there's now a plus sign that shows up on top of that tile to tell you, oh, it's going to be bigger than 3. And in the previous version, it was just a white tile, and it could be 3 or 6 or 12. And you just never had any idea. And the reason I made that change was because there sort of was a way to figure out if the next tile was going to be greater or not. And basically by playing it a lot, like for a very long period of time, sort of feeling it like, oh, I haven't had a big tile in a while. I bet one's going to show up next, and then you sort of gamble on it. And that's how a lot of people progress, because they played for a really, really long time. And they built these intuitions. But that was actually working against the bottom design goal here, which is mobile as heck, because that means you couldn't put it away. It was just like if you put it away, you were a worse player, which I didn't like at all. I was totally not down for. In fact, like I was really worried when people started counting the cards. People figured out how I spawned the cards in like that randomization algorithm, and I was really worried because I was worried that, oh, maybe counting cards will give you like a huge advantage. But then people luckily people made AIs that played the game who were counting cards and doing it really well, and the AIs were like only super marginally better. The AIs that counted cards were only super marginally better than the AIs that didn't, which was cool. So I'm glad it's still super mobile. Yeah.
One of the things you touched on briefly at the end was the idea is like, if you sort of have these ideas and they meet all 4 of these sort of lenses to look through the ideas of a tutorial, and even when you think you have a great tutorial, it's still probably totally wrong. Do you have actual like specific examples of ideas or directions you've had for 3s where they sort of met the goals of respect and excite and all of that, but still ended up being sort of terrible ideas, and why?
Yeah, for example, one of them was I wanted to teach the idea, like people were having a hard time picking up on the idea that when you swipe the screen, you were moving all the tiles. People would pick one tile and then try to move that very specifically, and they'd be confused when everything else moved.
Strange.
So I tried, I took away the middle.
I know what's causing that. I just don't know why it's. I don't know why it's causing that.
When you swiped left or right, it would move. There was a tile in the top row and the bottom row, and then it would move those together.
It's like, because I have a function that will delete the NPC when you spawn.
You move everything, and you get to learn all these things all at once.
But it's supposed to only delete the one that matches your name.
Like it followed all these instructions, but it was.
So I don't know why it's doing it to human being. I'll have to check. Might be something to do with the getting from the player state rather than the character.
Because they were.
So in which case, I guess it would have had the same name for a second or something. I don't know. But we got 2 clients here that can see each other.
It was basically clearing out the playing field and being like, hey, you're not smart enough to have a whole playing field. I'm going to restrict you to just these things. So it was also failing the respect category. And I think that was like the biggest, point at which I felt really smart, but was just totally wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Do you ever sacrifice gameplay for a tutorial? I mean, go back on the gameplay once you're at the tutorial phase, realizing how some things are not clear enough, or do you always find a way to make it better?
So it's just not going into turn mode for some reason.
Basically downgrade the game in honor of the tutorial. I remember I heard.
Still not doing the client
Chris
turn.
Hecker once said, depth first, usability second, and I really like that idea.
But it is if I'm
if you focus on depth
interping
first,
to it.
basically guaranteeing that you're going to have a.
As soon as I'm no longer interping,
entertain people for as long as who've been playing as long as you have. And I think that's
stops doing the animation at all. I wonder if it's on the server like that too.
That's why the
Otherwise, everything else looks pretty good.
Over and over and over and over again, because I think it's much better to work really hard in a tutorial than to sacrifice your game in honor of new players.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Except for turning in place.
One of your first slides was the very first prototype that you made.
that featured the monster. I was wondering if you could go into why you changed that and what changed between that prototype in the final game as a result of your playtests in the tutorial, maybe.
Right, so Sam's talking about the monster, which is that little circle with a -6. And basically, the monster was a symptom of me trying to find the meat to this game. Like when the very first prototype I ever made, I just couldn't find it. It didn't even have that little monster in it. It was just this grid of numbers.
So turning. Just turning in place, when in place. Then I can go and make the horse replicate.
You could combine them together.
And this thing.
No matter what they were. They didn't have to match like the current game.
Deleting the name.
So people often ask me, like, did you just start with like 3s and 6s and 12s and 24s? Was like, no, I actually started with 1s and 2s and then figured out matching later. But yeah, basically the problem with this is that there was a super derivative strategy you could play forever, which is like not in a good way. Like you could like literally, if you followed the very specific rules, very specific instructions, you could figure out a way to never end, for the game to never to end, and that was super unsatisfying and boring, and that bothered me a lot. So I was looking for ways to flesh out the gameplay, and I thought, oh, maybe if there's this monster in here, constantly like he would eat 3s and stuff, and your score is based on the 3s he eat 8, and I was trying to make like a risk-reward thing. And it turns out that gambling with yourself I don't find very interesting. So that sucked, and like basically me and Greg were like just pouring our hearts into figuring out how to make this game have legs, and eventually I couldn't, and I just gave up, and I was like, well, it's not happening. I guess I can't make a game that meets all these design goals that I have. So I gave up, and I put it aside, and then I worked on other projects for 3 months, and then like my girlfriend picked up the prototype and just started playing with it, and she's like, hey, you should give this another shot. And I was like, okay, and I approached it with fresh eyes, and then only then did I figure out the matching component. So sometimes like the only way to move forward is to stop, I guess. Like, I think Tom Pacina, who's like a game industry elder person, always said you should take a vacation when you least feel like you deserve a vacation. Is that did I misphrase it? I think I botched that completely. But oh yeah, like basically when
I need
you
to make
feel the
another
most
one for a
pressure,
cat
like, the
name
most, like,
from
you have
character
to make this
name.
work or else it's not going to work. And like you're like a week
But
before a deadline.
this might just be because it was.
That's when you should take a vacation.
Oops, this needs
just to
something.
clear your head so that you can approach that final push confidently. And I think taking a 3-month vacation from this game is what saved it in the end. Ramble. Okay. Thank you.
Shout out to my recent subscribers. All have really cool names. You sound like totally fake people. Yuki Kinoshita, Shai Jarvis, Walt Vander R, Arun Vutnori, Jacques Etienne Dai. Is this international or just keyboard spam? That's kind of cool. I don't know. No offense, you guys, but it's kind of cool. I mean, my name's pretty much keyboard spam too, so. Rewind and braid. Some music for a bit. It's a good album. Hey, what's up, dude? Is the volume here? We okay? Okay, let's see if I fixed it just by delaying the name thing. Oh. Oops. Oh, hello. Oh. Isn't that interesting? Hello. Doesn't matter, I'm just testing client stuff anyway. But that's some interesting shit. Yes, it is. It's making fun of the way my history teacher used to say shit like nuclear, like the way George Bush does. He was the man. That dude, my teacher, taught me about like the dangers of the 21st century. He was so right. So I got backpacks replicating, and I'm working on making the animations replicate. Oh, turning works. Nice. What about if I do that first? Oh, nope, then it's like off. Whatever variable it is isn't replicating. I need to set it at done. That's what it is, the done thing. Okay, I can just quit out. I don't need to know anymore now. I don't need to know anything about this. Okay, so one more variable to replicate. Wait, isn't there a done one? No, it's just getting these. And when it gets them, let's go into a bool on here. Monday. Monday, back from the dead. I gotta find a way, where could you be? Move right. Peach scone. No, I did not. I just hate you. Oh, there you go. That's what I need. This guy knows what's up. Oh, he just wanted me to see the advertisement. Come on, I knew it. Just kidding. This is viral.
What up, Bob? God, man, we're Hobo Johnson Love Makers. We're a couple
200,000.
kids,
Okay.
5, I guess, that like to make a little bit of love, like to make a little bit of music. Look at that. That's a desk. Just kidding, Bob. It's a table. I don't care about rules. Hi, what's your name? How are you? How's your life? Oh, you got a man. Are you in love? If so, a type. Is it just platonic, strictly just as friends, or the type that ties you two together till tomorrow's end? If it is, disregard every time I call you pretty. Though it's meant sincerely, it's just my imagination drifting. Brush me off like the dirt on Jay-Z's shoulder, so I fall to ground, collect myself, and get ready to take over your heart. Or at least your spare time. And I love the thought of being
Oh, that's a nice mix.
or maybe it's the thought of
Let's
not
kind of
being so alone. The second one's way sadder than the first one, but I don't know. I love the thought of being with you. Or maybe it's the thought of not being so alone. Man, I really love craving love, but also really love not crying on the.
Maybe it's not this. Oh no, Boys in the Hood cover. Really? Come on, what's the fucking dynamite hack? This is what's up, my friend. Fuck the video. It's on the block to the left inside. Get the clip with the Mac 10 at the side of my hip. And the side, and I pointed my weapon just as the fool starts stepping. Side to side, and I let the Alpine play. Pumping new shit by NWA. It's like happy rap. It's a fresh alchemy on them. Nice. It's good that you know this. Don't quote me, boy, I ain't said shit. To a place where my homeboys chill.
Start drinking from the 8 ball, my breath starts stinking. I gotta get my girl to rock that body. Before I left, I hit the Bacardi. Pulled to the house, get her out of the pad. And the bitch said something to make me mad. She said something that I couldn't believe. So I grabbed the stupid bitch by a nappy ass weave. Started talking shit, wouldn't you know? I reached back like a pimp and I slapped the hoe. And her father stood up and he started to shout. So I threw a right hook and knocked his old ass out. Cause the boys in the hood are always hard. Come talking that trash and we'll pull your card. Knowing nothing in life but to be legit. Don't quote me, boy, I ain't said shit.
It's good times. What else do I know in this genre? Wait, did they change it? It's supposed to be In the Dead of Night. Punk ass trippin' in the dead of night. I guess they changed it for the music video because they couldn't copyright the Beatles, the Bluebirds thing. They couldn't do it. They were like, they'll sue us. Oh, Richard Cheese. Oh my god. Classic.
Do you feel that? Oh shit. Oh, wah, ah, ah, ah. Oh, wah, ah, ah, ah. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up. Come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Open up your head and let it flow into me. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness.
I definitely know this version, you mother. Yeah, it's so good.
You fucker, get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Madness is the gift that has been given to me. I can see inside you, the sickness is rising.
We've lowered the run speed, by the way. And I'm playing in the lowest settings, just so you know.
Oh no, the world is a scary place. Now that you woke up,
Hey, what's up, AJ, DH? How are ya? Alright, so right, but let me think of like a good one. Back when he was actually clever. I don't know if there's such a thing. Let's do one of his polkas. Where'd all polka medleys? All of them. Polka face. Don't know how to do that. Looks insane. Let's do all the medleys. Yeah, this is the lowest settings. The lighting makes it obvious here, but otherwise it's like Jesus.
Womanizer, you're a womanizer. Oh, womanizer, oh, you're a womanizer, baby. You are. You are. Womanizer, womanizer, womanizer. Womanizer. Boy, don't try to front. I know just what you are. Boy, don't try to front. I know just what you are. You say I'm crazy. I've got your crazy. You're nothing but a womanizer. You spin my head right round when you go down, down. You spin my head right round when you go down, Day and night, the lonely stoner seems to free his mind at night. He's all alone through the day and night. The lonely loner seems to free his mind at night. At night, it's 1:15. I'm a little drunk and I need you now.
It's working when I do this. It's something else. It's not that multicasting shit I just did. If I quit as the server, it'll just kick everybody else out first. I went to a wedding, a Jewish wedding. I used to have some Jewish friends when I was young too. Why don't I just change this to make it valid?
I am a rock star. I've got my rock moves, and I don't want you tonight. I kissed a girl and I liked it. The taste of her cherry chapstick. I kissed a girl just to try it. I hope my boyfriend don't mind it. It felt so wrong, it felt so right. Don't mean I'm in love tonight. I kissed a girl and I liked it. I liked it. And I'd like to make myself believe that planet Earth turns slowly. It's hard to say that I'd rather stay away.
You remember this one? This is like the original, but subtle. I think you can relate. I've just been, I'm making all my various replications, animations replicate. So yeah, I need to go to the where I'm setting turning and make it like I do here. I think I can get rid of these events I just made too. That was like unnecessary. Yes, yes I did, but it doesn't animate much yet. Oh, this is such a good song, man. Wow. No. So I don't know how much you've missed. This is the good part. I mean, it's all good, but... So I'm not going into turn. Since you just got back here, I might as well show off some horsey stuff, because the horsey stuff is going pretty good, pretty well. I basically cleaned up the movement of it for the server, at least for now. But you can check this. Definitely not that. No, definitely not that. Just freaking home to YouTube. Home to YouTube. Okay, is the daylight off? Sun off for some reason? The shit that happens sometimes. I can't quite show it off if it's like that. Well, let me see. You gotta figure out what's going on with that, man. It happens kind of like randomly. That doesn't trigger overlap. There must be like a reliable thing going on there. I need to check. Yeah, it's gotta be one of those that's like not checked to be reliable. Because it just wasn't doing that just a moment ago. I think you can see some of the stuff in the spawn area still. Okay, well. Wait a second. Oh, because it's a new save game. The sun's working. It's just this time is... Let me... Do I have this function? Did I make this work? No, I think I unplugged the speed up sun thing. Whatever. I'm on a horse now. Let me see if I can find... There we go. Alright, so... I sort of fixed the rotating. I can... Turning in place. I added this. If I right click, it interps over to it. I just read this comment. And then, you know, I fixed auto run, so now it runs in a diagonal line nice and smooth if I'm running right or left. So I can change the day thing. I have to do the old-fashioned method. And I fixed when it was kind of sticking out of the grass sometimes by just making the rays longer. I put a ray down each side of each legs. I mean, like one here, one here. I should at least make the day pass faster. Right now it's not passing at all. It's just up. It's just out there somewhere. It's at like 5,000 billion trillion time of day length. Alright. So, yeah, it runs nicely, and I've been putting those interps on the main character too. So, I mean, like, basically everything works nicely. Doing a rear there. You can turn in place. You can run with the mouse buttons. And it moves around with you, kinda nice. A head bob when you're standing still, but the camera comes detached if you're strafing. So that, because if you're strafing while you're in third person, see, if I walk and strafe, I do a nice little, you know, traditional dressage style sidestep where it's not directly to the left, it's kind of like a crossover thing. But if I just go normal speed, it does it just trotting to the left, but you see he's facing all the way because you don't want to not be able to move in any direction. It just has to be really slow, right? You don't want to be hitting a button and be like, oh, I can't move that way, fuck. But if I let go of the mouse button, I'm good. So, likewise, if I'm slow walking, that's like, you know, for showing off, you know, for just being cool and stuff. And I can fix the way it snaps around a bit. That's a tweaking setting. But, you know, so the idea is, also, if you jump while running, you can jump. If you jump while walking, it does this little head shake thing. It's like, no. Horse says no. But if you do it while standing still, it does that. Yeah, slow walk is good, right? There's still some snapping going on. Like, right click here. I gotta, like, basically realign some animations so that they're all in the same place. So that, and blend them slower. Yeah, I figured, like, you want a reaction. You don't want to press a button and be like, it didn't work. It didn't, you know, and just get like a... Okay. Get like, okay, he doesn't want to jump. I have to run and jump. I have never saw Cassandra live. Yeah, isn't this nice, man? I found it on some Reddit, like Super HD subreddit, Super HD Images subreddit. So... No idea, dude. No idea where I got it. I can send it to you at some point if you want it, but that's about the only way I can do anything with it. Oh, I'm not doing this here. But still, that shouldn't... You go into turning if you have is turning set to be true. And is turning is set to be true. Oh, over here, originally set turning to be true. If character movement's less than 0. That should be only if the right mouse is down. True. It works correctly on the server though, so that's not the problem here. Set turning. Should do it just fine. Take care, dude. Thanks, man. Probably not too much longer. I might go play some Fortnite soon. Because this is kind of like rudimentary shit, you know. Like, this is working. It's doing it here correctly, but my normal thing isn't happening on the client at all. Maybe it's a server thing too. Or maybe there's some delay to it somehow. Because of the server shit. That if it gets here... It comes here, and it's like... The cat climbing on stuff where he shouldn't be. Hmm. Oh look, the sun is just starting to come up at whatever speed it is that I'm at. Maybe it's because of the settings that I'm at. Whatever, I can see, that's the important part.
I understand this, it's just deving around, lol.
Deving around. Still hot, dude, when am I not? Damn. What is this, one? Oh, this is two. This is a client. Oh, it stopped. It's like it's going into this mode, even if it shouldn't be. I don't think it's in that mode, actually. No, it's simply not setting turning, even though it should be. Since all of these are going back... Shit. Gotta be careful with that. Alright, let me take care of this while I kind of know what I'm doing. I shouldn't be turning off turning right there, because I'm going through the are you turning or not filter later. So you don't want to be setting not turning during event tick and then checking if you're turning or not, because it's probably just disabling it due to lag. I gotta pee real quick. Be right back. Sorry. Because this goes up here to find out if you're turning. This might also be why. Oh, these are, they're not setting it first. Ah. Right, this is the active rotation. But, oh, server turn, see on server, and then multicast. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, I just need to set the turn axis. It's my stupid game sounds that are so loud, and I can't really. I suppose I can do this. Just because that's obnoxious. Oh, come on. There we go. Let's just turn that way the fuck down. Alright, there we go. Alright. Oh, fuck. It works if I'm... That's just so fucking weird. It does work on the server. Yeah, and then if it's... Everything else works fine. And that works if I'm... It's something else that's blocking the path through there. It sucks that it takes this long just to load up 3 clients just to test shit. Whatever. That's what it takes. Alright, so combat mode, no. Mouse button, right mouse button. If true. If I'll just go here and do stuff and say set turning axis, set turning, which does both. Okay. So, mouse is true. Is falling? No. True would go there. False. And then it's this. Maybe... Oh, because controller is not fucking replicated, maybe? No, because it is performing this function perfectly fine. If it goes into it. Maybe it's the move right? I mean, I just changed this to... freaking... all of that fancy multicast, and it didn't help. Those are the only things that could be stopping it. Maybe it's no. If it's going to, let's move right. It's got to be this. Because the controller is not replicated, but that doesn't make any sense because this is working just fine. Maybe because I might set turn axis, set turning axis, is turning, set turning. Maybe I only need to do this once here because that's... Is that enough? I mean, because it's just setting the same bool twice. There's no reason why that would be wrong. Besides, that's not even what this was working. This path, a-okay. Sorry, down to here. It's coming back out of here. So maybe one of these is going to the wrong thing? Is this one going to the wrong thing? It's falling. But it works on the server. Yeah, this is what I use. I got a year and a half ago, and it was good sales. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You know, please do subscribe and join us on Discord. Nice. Nice. Now this is going up here along with the right mouse button is not held down. So if my mouse button is held down, but you're falling, I don't know if I want to change that or not, but either way, it's not making any sense why it's works on the server but not clients. What am I not replicating? You're welcome. Oh, reliable. Reliable. It's the weirdest thing. I wonder if I bypass this whole code somehow. Maybe it's... No, because if it was running, it would be... Maybe it's running, it's just... Situation... Set turning... This is the key thing to find out if we're going down this route, and it does work. And it does seem to not work when... So actually, we're coming up here to use controller rotation yaw, which does work. This is going to... We want yes on controller rotation yaw, and no on the other one. So we want this to be a negative. That'll give us a no on the other one. Okay. Server is strafing. Is that the problem? So we're setting the strafing here. Because right mouse button is down. But I think this needs to be moved to the... Ah, I see. I probably did this on the horse before. Let's see. So if you're moving, then set strafe and bypass. But if not, how can I make this be like that? But if not, then go to turn. Is it because this is only... That's why. Because this is only... Oh, maybe... Maybe I need to keep it how it was and just change that to put on the client first. Maybe this is a myth I have. I think just setting it on the server once is all I need to do for a replicated server and multicast for others to see it. I think telling the server, if you want it to be immediate on the client's end, you do it on the client and then you do it on the server. But I mean, I do want it to be immediate, but still, I think this should still work, technically. What's up with this video edited together like that? It's so weird. Must have been multiple videos that somebody stitched together or something. But it doesn't make someone cut them apart like that for multiple YouTube videos or something, and then someone stitched them back together and didn't cut them together right? I don't know. Alright, let's see. I guess because I'm in strafe mode. That's the problem, because I am strafing. And strafing isn't, but maybe because I'm turning strafing off on that other one when I should have been turning it on, and it's not hitting. I get it. You do have to hit it on the client. Uh-oh. Did I crash it? I crashed it. It's okay. This is why we save. I think I'm almost there with this. It's the strafing mode. Has no turning animation, so I'm staying stuck in strafing mode because when I turn it off, I'm not doing it on the client first. So I'm just going to go change that set is strafing mode to have... I should probably set all of them to just be set to local first and then do server and then do multicast just to prevent things like this in the future. It's just like, it's okay if it's a bool or a float gets set twice in a row on the client. I don't think it's going to lag up. It's just setting a variable. I have that guitar. It's out of commission, but I have it somewhere. No. Oh man. I just knocked my phone off the shelf. It's alright. I could probably have made this one event with 2 variables easily enough, but I don't want to go back and redo all my previous code. I'll just do that from now on with new stuff. If I have to go back one day and change that, so be it, I will. Not a biggie though. What the fuck? Huh. That was an interesting little bridge. By the way, it's crashing because it's trying to access the save files while I'm in the middle of closing the game. So that wouldn't happen in the real situation. And it's really just because of my own... It's because of my own dumbness, but it's not because of the way I've programmed the game. I mean, it may be. I may be able to fix that if I was a better programmer, but it's mostly just because I'm dumb. But let's check this out. Cedric. That's the best comment ever. I have no idea what you're doing. It's a good one.
I'm inviting her to the sausage party. You know what I'm talking about. It's K-Rock Weenie Webcast on KRock.com, brought to you by Xbox. I'm John Michael. Looks like I got a date tonight. All right, I'm gonna go work this. Let's go check out the Mars Volta on Budweiser's side stage B, okay?
By Budweiser K-Rock Weenie Roast. And they play Abortion, the Other White Meat. It's an improvised song.
So we couldn't think of anything we wanted to play at this thing. So we're just gonna play. We're just gonna make up a song here. So if you don't like it, please leave. And, it's called whatever you want. Abortion, the Other White Meat.
That was all a carefully constructed lie. This is a rehearsal of some material that later made its way into a solo album. Nice, like what?
You know what they say about weenies? Lips and assholes, everybody. Lips and assholes.
K-Rock. This is a really good song, though. Ooh, damn. Here we go. Damn it. Frustrated on water physics and AI. So it'll play it just fine if I'm doing this rotate 2 jazz, but if it's done, all of a sudden it's just like, nope, I don't do that. Oh, wait. Did I get it? No. It's so weird, but it's fine on the server. This is my key feature. Turning in place animations. Very important. Very, very important. Okay, alright. What could be doing this? What's funny is that this part works on both client and server, the rotate thing. Let's see that on multiplayer actually. Oh wait, this is the server. Let's check the client. Yeah, he does a little feet shuffling as he turns. But if I'm just turning normally, maybe this right left mouse button thing is capturing. Maybe I didn't update that on the character. Maybe it's updated on the horse. I don't know. The sound effects. Bobine 666 Cobra 666 is bribed. Am I testing this again, or am I? Why did I load it up? Should I? Am I? No, we're not testing. I think I should stop, because I just have no clue why it's not turning on. Alright, the function is there, it's just not happening on the client. So why don't we just make this? But I did make this on. Oh wait, I did have an idea, didn't I? It was like, yeah, right, left mouse button. Oh, this was the idea. If it equals. think I know what's going on here. This isn't replicated. That's sending it back up into not turning mode. This is equaling 0, probably because it's not getting changed when you input axis turn. We need to set a variable and check that instead. I think we only need it to be replicated. We don't need to do all that jazz with the setting variables to be... The server and multicast as if it's an animation thing, but I think that's already getting set in animation somewhere by a different function. Turn axis is usually setting it, but this get turn is the input, which I was using to measure whether or not the button is being pressed. So I have to use something else for multiplayer. Yeah, I'm like that too, dude, but you know, if you just... Oh. Yeah, neural networks kind of hokey, jargony BS, if you ask me though. Like, you can do better. Your time is better spent. It's a great hobby, and it'll lead to great things very soon. I'm sure faster than most people expect, but... Like, yeah, you're gonna do amazing things, but it's like its own thing. Like, you don't need to do neural networks to do video games. Like, they're gonna be, like, curing cancer and shit. They're not gonna be making video games with neural networks. I think it sort of sets the bar too high to say, like, oh, you have to be able to do neural networks if you want to make a video game. It's like another gatekeeper, bar to entry, imposing fear on the lower classes from on high. Just like every other bullshit. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. It already works, basically. So basically, they just don't do anything as NPCs other than wave at you. But if you see, wait, before I log in here, you can see we have 2, 1, and where is he? Maybe I'm not saving correctly. Let me try this again. Watch while I'm here. So right now all he's doing is just like pointing randomly because I've just put in some arbitrary code just to be... That's awesome, stick around. I'll be doing one soon to test how this whole world works with like as many players as I can get on it at one time. I just want to make sure everything I've got in here works nicely. I'm not really too intent on adding too much more. Damn it. It's not working. Oh, what's this? This is interesting. Now it's not even going to strafe mode at all. So if I join host a game again, they should be both standing right there. Oh, there they are. NPCs waving. Yeah, let me show you what this looks like real quick. Wait for the grass to pop in. And it's like sunrise, and the time of day is set to like such an extraordinarily slow time that you're not going to see much action in the sky right now. But yeah, game is actually looks pretty good. I don't know. Oh, let me fix this. Wait, this isn't even work. Oh. Yeah, strafing isn't even working at all. What the fuck? What did I do wrong? Oh, I guess that place where I changed it needs to go back here to just be strafing. Oh, I know. Movement was greater than 0. Should have been strafing and not turning. Oh shit, what's going on? Oh, now the server can't fucking turn. Shit. Holy shit, what have I done? I've been working on this too long. How can I take this back? Oh, here we go. An unplugged pin. I probably do want this back here. Let me try this, because that would have definitely done it. Whew. That was the problem. Let's check this clients now. Lower the settings here. I need to make the default variable 50 on the postures. It's starting at 0. Because that's a yeah, there's a bunch of them all over where it's referenced, or where it's stored a bunch of places. I need to set their defaults. Okay, well at least I can strafe. Why the fuck? I can auto run. Is auto run firing somehow? Or is this thing just not turning off? Maybe it's... Oh, no. If I start further away from it, it'll start turning. But then when it's just... So it does turn off eventually, because if I can just keep dragging back and forth and skip it, it does shut off eventually. And then once it shuts off, it's not going to normal turning mode. On clients. Oh shit, damn it. Let me just make sure I save the last little pin thing or I'll hate myself. Alright, take care. I'm probably gonna stop soon too. Let me just fix that last pin that I just checked, make sure it's still there, the multicast. And like... Okay, it's good. Going back here. That's the same branch check as this. Oh, maybe it should go here. Oh, that's for move right and move left. That's not turn right, turn left. No, it should already be this. It's the same thing. Maybe instead of doing that, I should just take this up here. Do that. Maybe it's relying on an execute node too long ago. If I do it again, it'll refresh it. Maybe there's some lag involved there. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a slow, arduous process, but every now and then I show it off. And, you know, I'm getting closer to the point where I can just throw all the content in. And, like, the longer I work on this process, the longer I ruminate how that content's gonna go. So I mean, I have a whole bunch of weapons already in the game. I need to do clothing is a really big thing I need to work on. And at some point I'm basically going to put down Unreal Engine and just start cranking out clothes. And so I think that point is going to be when I'm sort of done with this stage of development of sort of like making sure everything that I've currently got in there is clean and saves right and replicates right. You know, the horse, the axe. I think I just basically have to finish saving the different types of trees that you cut down and saving the fact that they've been cut down and saving their model in the world, which should be pretty easy, just making that permanent. And, like, you know, various other things, polish it up a bit to present, and then I'll just kind of, like, put that out for some feedback while I work on clothes for a while. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, it's not firing at all? What? Okay, everything works on the server. Dun 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 dun.
Open a wrist, hop back again, illuminate up its skin. Open break the witness, ritual contrition, eternity, help asphyxia, derail, in the rattle dog, way through the tracks, snail pouch and whisper, and mask you through, fill cold blisters, feel that, freaky eyes gather, midnight muses, boxcar cadavers.
Damn, thought I had it. It just doesn't want to work. At least strafing works, and at least the smooth rotate works. It's just weird that, I mean, rotating in place totally worked before. I had tested it a billion times on clients, so whatever I've done here has just changed it. It's just, at least the server is cool. Dancing to the Volta. Alright, let me see what that looks like over here. I can go nicely if I want to. But I can also do this if I want to. You don't know which way I'm gonna go. You don't know which way I'm gonna go. You don't know which way I'm gonna say. Okay. Fucking hell. It wants to interp when it's... Oh. Oh, I've got it. I'm strafing. I'm turning. I've currently got it on the server. So, it just... It's like, while in strafing, it's not going... While in idle, it's just... Wait, the server saw him turning for a second. I definitely saw that. Oh, was that because I... Yeah, that's because I right-clicked when I wasn't... Well, maybe have something I have to think about tomorrow. I'm just gonna give up on that for today. think I did this one though. I'm pretty sure I did that one. Let me just hop in real quick and see that. I love this. The Star Wars wipes as a result of using YouTube's stabilization correction. It was like perfect. Can I just play that again here? Hold on. It's too fucking good. God, my short-term memory is awful. No wonder I'm so bad at Fortnite lately. Like, I was like, oh yeah, I'll test that real quick. It was on the text file. Two-handed. Got it. That's why we take notes. Okay. That blends nice and smooth between running and standing still. I'm digging that. Can't I? Get the inventory. And I'm not seeing him with the two-handed. Oh, it's loading up. Slowly, I guess? Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, well, picked up the item. Oh shit, what the fuck? It's overriding it with something. Okay, well, I'm seeing him with it two-handed. Because I know that he has what items he has, probably. He's the server. That's really strange. Let me try saving the game properly a couple times. Just see what happens here. Might be because at some point I think I hosted the game, so no, that was ages ago. Look at that, okay. Interesting. So the client isn't seeing the server as having 200 item. Okay, but I'm seeing both of them. Oh, wait a second. What? Oh. What the fuck? Wait. What the fuck? Oh, okay, I guess I had the mouse here, but I clicked the window here, and I was still getting button. Oh, that's cool. I can do that. Okay. Well, that's cool. Anyway. This is the server. He sees everybody. He's having them. Alright, so I still have to do two-handed too. That's fine. Alright, so let's try... If I just save and quit as a server. Post game. Just see if the inventories are working okay, like whatever the fuck was going on before. What could have caused that? Must be just like the crashing, the constant crashing. I think it has to be. That it was just some save file somewhere was getting overwritten, and I was just loading into the same world. It's actually playing the connecting screen? What is this? Oh, because it's not gonna connect right now. Let me save and quit here. log in again. Now I'm the client, and I'm seeing him. Oh, until I clicked on him. And my inventory is fucked up. Something happened where it, like, overwrote it or something. What the fuck? Alright, I'm not gonna get into that right now, but shit, that's pretty serious. But at least it's still there. If I log in again as that character, something's happening on the client where it's just resetting like everybody's. I think that rep notify is something is messing up. Yeah, I've still got all this stuff on this character. Character's not messed up, it's just the client's perception of it. I'll do that tomorrow. I don't know what the fuck that is. Alright, I gotta go though. It's been real. Thanks for watching some Mars Volta with me, and chilling and all that stuff. I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.